Because my biggest thing I always keep telling myself, opportunity doesn't answer unless you're knocking. You've got to get aggressive on cold calling.
What's happening, Skid Steer Nation? It is the host with the most. All right, that's actually bullshit, but it is Ryan, your typical host for the Skid Steer Nation podcast. Today, we found a gentleman who has taken his passion and turned it into a very profitable business, and he gets to do what he loves every day. I'm excited to introduce you to Andrew, but you're going to have to wait for just a few seconds because before we do that, I want to remind all of you that the Skid Steer Nation podcast, shocker, is sponsored by skidsteernation.com, your home for high-quality American-made skid steer attachments. So for you and your business, these attachments have been vetted by us. We've walked through them. We've checked the quality control, the durability. They're going to last long, perform well, and help you increase your return on investment, which means more profits for you. So if you need some more attachments for the work you do, you're expanding your business, you're offering new services, head over to skidsteernation.com and find the perfect attachment to help you grow your business. And speaking of growing your business, don't forget that we also have Groundbreaking Growth. It's our coaching and consulting division of Skid Steer Nation. So if you're hitting a glass ceiling or trying to break through to the next level, need help systemizing your business, you feel like you're on the hamster wheel, you hate pushing paper, you'd rather push dirt, that's where we come in. We help you systemize, structure, and move your business in a forward direction, breaking through those glass ceilings and hitting the goals that you have for yourself. If you're interested in learning more, head over to groundbreakinggrowth.com. The link is in the show notes, and schedule your discovery call with me. It will not be some other coach. It will not be another person on our team. It'll literally be with me. It's a very valuable call. Even if we don't work together, you will gain a lot of knowledge about your business. So with all of the ad rolls out of the way, I want to welcome Andrew Steinhauser. He's from Springview, Nebraska. He's the owner, excuse me. He is the owner of Elkhorn Pines Tree Service and Whitetail Solutions. And guys, there's the passion part. Andrew, man, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ryan, thanks for having me. I surely appreciate it.
Oh, I'm excited to talk with you, man. I saw the Whitetail Solutions and I was like, ooh, nice little twist from what we normally talk about, right?
Yeah. No, looking forward to it.
Yeah. And like I was reading through the survey questions that you filled out for us, and I'm like, it seems like you have your hands in a lot of things, but they all tie back to the same thing.
Absolutely. Yep.
Like you're not spreading your market out wide, you're just spreading your offerings out.
I mean, from the area we're in, it's very rural, right? So you've got to have some business mind on how I can kind of keep a market for myself of doing work and providing services. So you've got to kind of spread out what you're capable of doing, and being, I guess you can say, specialized in many things sure does help. It sure does help generate business and everything else. So
yeah. Because like I was just looking at this, and like I'm sure I'm going to miss a bunch of these because I'm going off the top of my head, but it looks like you do quite a bit of fencing, both ag fencing and some commercial fencing.
Yeah, just a little bit of commercial. Yep, done a little bit in the past. Yep.
Yeah, you're doing food plot installments and land management for recreational hunting purposes. I mean, if that doesn't make you want to get out of bed in the morning, I don't know what does.
I love every bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah. You're doing land clearing site. Are you doing site development too?
No site development. I mean, I have a little bit for just like some shop houses and stuff some people put up, but not anything residential in cities or anything like that. It's just pretty much rural for the most part.
And then you own cattle. You are on a board for a local forest for management, if I read that right.
I'm on I'm on a Niobrara council board. It's a board that was designated to keep landowner rights with our scenic river. So I should back up a little bit. So the Niobrara River is a scenic river that passes through us. It's a very iconic river for our area. It receives probably about 100,000 people that tube down it and canoe down it. And just is a very, very beautiful river with all sorts of great tourist stops to take a look at. So in the early 90s, they made a board to help with the landowner for their rights with the scenic river being turned into kind of like a national park, so to say. but it's not really a national park. It's just deemed a scenic river. So I myself, along with many other board members, were kind of working hand in hand with the feds and landowners on trying to keep a good balance between everybody and really focusing on the conservation and preserving the historic fact of that Niobrara Scenic River, just making sure we're preserving it in the future. Yep.
That is awesome. And then what do you else? There's one other thing I'm missing. You sell something.
Oh, I sell some food plot seed. I do that. I work on irrigation systems. I pretty much do about anything, honestly. So
all right. And you're going into 6 years having this business now, is that right?
Yes, 6 years. Yep, 6 years, correct. Yep.
Let's take just a half a step backwards.
Right on.
6 years ago, 2018. I'm assuming you're doing food plots and stuff for yourself or the family farm. And how does this transition into a business?
So I have a strong passion for hunting, obviously. Really enjoy it. Hunting, trapping, fishing. My family, my wife and kids, that's kind of what we do all the time. So kind of starting back, I was wanting to do something other than what I kind of was doing, which I really enjoyed. I worked for my in-laws before starting this business. And they're a big cattle producer, and really I love working there, but I wanted a change. I wanted to do something different. And so kind of exploring options. Well, what am I good at? I mean, whenever you start a business, you got to figure out the basics, right? So looking forward, we started kind of doing a few things and tried putting out some word about some food plots and clearing trees, and never really got a lot of hits on that to start out with. So I started reaching out about doing pasture fence, and lo and behold, I mean, the average age for a rancher in our area is 60 plus years old. And I don't know about you, Ryan,
they don't want to fence anymore.
Fence is hard work. I mean, it's it's very hard work. So me and a couple other guys, we started out building fence, and I tell you what, it was a lot of work. Did that for a few years until slowly started to transition my business into land clearing and more of the whitetail side of doing things, because that kind of basically I had doors open in the past of doing all this fencing. It would lead me to another customer that, oh hey, you do stuff with whitetail. What's all that about? And so it drum up another conversation and transition into a whole nother business kind of later down the road.
That's fantastic. So I'm from Illinois. I'm familiar with the size of whitetail in Illinois and Iowa. Are you comparable in Nebraska to like these 300-pound massive girth wide rack bucks, or are you start getting a little bit leaner?
Very similar. I mean, we're kind of all in that grain belt, I guess you can say. So they're all getting fed the same thing that you guys are getting. We produce a lot of Boone and Crockett bucks in our state, no different than Iowa or Illinois. I know there's probably going to be a very big discussion and heated argument amongst some of your viewers on, well, my state's better. Well, that may be. I'm not saying Nebraska is the best state to hunt whitetails, but I love where I live and love what I do, I guess.
Hey, here's what I know. There's probably a dozen states where a monster buck is like 2-inch thick, 180 pounds.
Yep.
So, like, I don't care if Nebraska's better than Illinois. We're better than a lot of the country when it comes to whitetail growth and harvesting. So,
absolutely, got to be very appreciative of
that. What's the largest whitetail that you have harvested?
The biggest I've ever harvested is a 162-inch whitetail on record. So I guess on measurement, I guess I should say.
Was that green or dried?
That was green. Yep. So I don't know what it'd be at now. It probably shrunk a little bit. They usually do. So
that's still a nice sized deer.
Yeah, it's very nice. That's the biggest time. And typical, a lot of average size, 150 plus is pretty common in our area. In our state, we're in the Kippaw unit, and it is pretty notorious for big whitetails. And we do have our fair share of big muleys too. That's another thing too. The properties that I manage and hunt on, we have a mix of big muleys and whitetails both. So
see, now I got to give Nebraska the edge over Illinois because we have 0 muleys around us.
We have a fair amount, but not like not as much as what you see kind of kind of like Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, into Colorado. We don't have as much as that, but we do have some very respectable sized white or mule deer, excuse me. So
very nice, man. Very nice.
Yep.
All right. So we offer some food plots. We're starting to see there's some interest. We've been doing fence for a few years.
Yep.
Land clearing takes on its new animal for you.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's pick up from there since we got way off track with hunting.
Sorry.
No. Don't apologize. I love it.
But no, land clearing. So, like I said, the transition between building fence and land clearing is very similar. A lot of the fence that you're building, you're clearing trees as you're going along. So looking at it, like, I need to buy a certain attachment to where I'm going to be able to utilize it in my down months of building fence, because you're not going to build fence in the colder months.
Right.
So I was kind of looking into the diamond mulchers. That's what I use. That's what my company uses. So kind of transitioned into buying a brush mulcher, utilized that, went into with a tree shear for a while. Did a lot of projects with the tree shear. Nothing wrong with it. It serves its purpose. But kind of started out with reaching around with other competitors on, hey, how are you guys getting contracts? How do you, just reaching out? Because my wife's family does go back to doing a lot of logging on her mother's side, her long relation, but I work with them too, still to this day. So going back, I actually did a lot of logging with her cousins before I even started a business. So I kind of had a little bit of a background in land clearing, but they've kind of helped me along the way with, oh, hey, this is who you need to get a hold of. Put your name on this list, put your name on that list. And so all the contracts and everything started kind of rolling through, started getting active in bidding. And like, Ryan, with bidding, it's a whole new ball game. You learn a lot after the first handful of bids on, well, geez, I didn't make any money, but I didn't lose any money. But am I doing this for nonprofit or am I trying to make a living? So you learn a lot on the bid side of things. So it really transitioned into, we've got to figure this thing out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I always say, man, and I probably say it every week, but there's no such thing as a free education.
No.
And if you're going to try something new, and if you're new to bidding, and guess what? You're either going to lose money, break even, but that's your education.
Absolutely. You learn a lot. You got to get started. That's the initial thing, is you got to rip the Band-Aid off, right? Get in there, get dirty, figure it out, and learn from it, because that's about the only way. I mean, there's a lot of guys that reach out to me saying, hey, what do I need to bid? Well, what's your bottom dollar? I mean, I don't know what your operating costs are.
Right.
There's a lot of things that play in them factors. And me as a contractor, I'm still learning them every day too. I mean, it's a changing world. I mean, you go from not having a part on a certain machine, which, here in 2020 was a pretty common thing, that there was a filter shortage. I mean, there was all sorts of things that played a huge factor into how you're bidding your projects, to where, hey, am I going to be in business in a few months? So there's a lot to it. And it's been very rewarding and satisfying, and learning along the way has been pretty good too.
Yeah. So, it's still, and I shouldn't say baffles me, I'm not shocked by it, but I am still kind of in awe at the raw number of people, and they're typically with 3 years or less in business, but I've seen guys that are 10 years in business too, that still couldn't tell you what their hourly operating cost is.
Oh, geez.
Like, they can't even give you a ballpark, right?
Oh, yeah. No.
I'm like, you can't bid off what everyone else in your area does, because the 65-year-old guy has zero debt.
Yep.
His overhead is a third.
Yep.
And he doesn't have to charge $200 an hour to hit his margins.
No. Yeah, it really varies. It's pretty wild to watch it. And the other thing too, a lot of our places, like, if you just reach out, I don't know what it's like everywhere else for anybody, but the other thing, how I learned on, well, geez, I wasn't getting bids. Well, that must be too high. So starting out, I had no idea I didn't know none of that stuff.
Right.
What's my bottom dollar? I mean, you just don't. You're there to work. You're a hard worker. You're going to put you're going to do it, but you got to figure out the ways of how to do it on a business scale with numbers. So that took a little bit of time, but the thing that really worked for me is a lot of our places tell you what the bids go for. So you learn, well, I was this much higher. I wonder how long it took them to complete that project. And until you do a few projects like, well, this one took me 4 hours to do on this amount of acres. Well, geez, I kind of very similar. That's about how it is with most contractors too. So
yeah, and the successful ones, especially in land clearing, they will keep a notebook in their skid steer, and they will time track, and it doesn't have to be down to the exact minute, but like they will time track so they can learn different terrains, different types of trees, underbrush, and just to be like, so when they go out to go look and walk a property, they can go, oh, this has got a lot more oak than pine. It's going to take me 60% longer than strictly pine. So we need to, and they can start figuring those numbers out. And be a lot closer.
Yeah. And I mean, running a mulching head, there's a big difference between cutting an eastern red cedar down and cutting an oak tree down. I mean, there's a huge difference. I mean, a big difference on time and everything else. Our area, a lot of the work that's being done in our Niobrara River Valley is eastern red cedar. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with it in Illinois there. But I mean, cedar is a pretty sought after wood. It's our area here in the Niobrara River is one of the last areas in the United States with big timber cedar that is harvestable lumber. And the sad thing is we don't have any sawmills local to buy it. So a lot of that wood is getting trashed, and I try to salvage it. I have a buddy of mine who has a sawmill in Rapid City, South Dakota. We do trading, selling to him to get some product, and he has a market for it where he's at, but in our area there just isn't much of a market for eastern red cedar. So that's been another thing going forward too. But
interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you're just now expanding your business, right? You just got a second skid steer, and now you got a full-time employee.
Yep. My full-time employee is actually my dad. So we run cattle together. So he kind of semi-retired, but still doesn't have anything to do all day. So was wanting something to do. And I thought, well, maybe I'll buy a second machine and maybe we'll just cut trees together. And that's what we've been doing here. I just got my ASV back yesterday, a matter of fact, from Aberdeen, South Dakota. I went up there to go get some work done and just got it back. So I'm itching to get it back out in the woods and get to cutting. So yeah, nice. we went forward to that, picked up another mulching head. So we're running 2 mulching heads, 2 machines. And yeah, I mean, I'm an attachment guy myself. I have a string of attachments. I got a big lot where my shop's at, and most of that is attachments.
It gets addictive.
It is. And it's crazy. I just traveling around everywhere, doing bids and stuff. What attachments people have. It's like, and it might be homemade or bought or whatever. It's like, I never even thought there would even be such an attachment. Well, that's pretty wild. Like, well, where'd you get that at? Oh, I made it. Or, looking around and it's crazy how versatile skid steers are. I mean, that's why my business is based on having a wide spread of what I'm capable of doing, because the versatility of a skid loader is just endless, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's not a shortage of work that you can do with them.
No. And I mean, in the day and age we're in now, I mean, my thought is if you have a drive to work, that's all you need. The work's going to come there. It's all out there. The other thing I started out in my business was, I started calling people, cold calling right out of the blue. Like, well, I had Onyx, figured out who owned that property, typed in their name to look up and see, well, who's the owner of this LLC? And I gave a phone number, called this guy up and said, hey, you interested in me doing any land clearing? I'm Andrew Steinhauser, Elkhorn Pines Tree Service, Whitetail Solutions. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. Well, how'd you get my number? Oh, I found it on the internet. Sorry, because my biggest thing I always keep telling myself, opportunity doesn't answer unless you're knocking. So you've got to get aggressive on cold calling. And what my wife, when I started doing that, she's like, "Oh my gosh, aren't you afraid that somebody's going to tell you no?" Well, yeah. I mean, nobody wants to feel rejection or no. I mean, the word no, but to me, it's no. It's a 2-letter word. What's it going to hurt? You know, it's going to unlock a door eventually. So
here's what I say, Andrew. I'm like, if they say no, you're exactly where you were before you made the phone call.
Exactly. You're not
like nothing in your life changes. You don't lose any sleep. Like you're exactly where you are. Oh no, you're ahead because you're not thinking about calling people. You're actually doing it.
Yep.
And then when the one guy in 20, the one guy in 50, the one guy in 100 says yes, and it's a $40,000, $80,000 project.
Yep.
Not a $3,000 project. Well, this was worth 98 no's.
Yep. And that's the other, I mean, kind of how my business has kind of generated a lot of work has been just through word of mouth. I've done some Facebook advertising, but like I said, the average age in our rural area for a farmer or rancher is 60 plus years old. They don't have Facebook.
So I want to interject real quick while we're on this. I think this is something that if you're in a demographic with slightly older people, we personally are seeing a massive influx in that age range.
Yep.
Watching our YouTube videos.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Yep. And I mean, I'm a big YouTube person myself. I just to repair anything. I mean, they have everything on there.
Right. But it might be as simple as just like taping yourself doing some work and talking about it. Edit it, don't edit it, just clip it.
Yep.
And throw it on there.
Card on the end of it, and you're good to go.
Put it in the show notes, right? Contact info, this, that. And I mean, in that, because I feel like this boomer generation, this is just my personal thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Like you look at all the guys that own service-based businesses that are getting ready to retire. They see no value in their business for it to be for sale.
Yep.
But all they want to do is liquidate the equipment, take the cash out, and close the doors.
Yep.
Right. Well, this whole generation's that way, and now they're getting tech savvy-ish. Yep. Like they're the next wave of internet consumers.
Absolutely, they would be. Yep. I can see that. After kind of pointing out them points, I can kind of see that now. Yep.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, they sit at home. They've got, their son, daughter, whatever, made them get a smartphone because you can't buy a flip phone anymore. You got to order them online.
And they're probably retired. I mean, more than likely retired. So they got a lot of spare time in their hands. And that's what I've noticed with a lot of the people I do business with. A lot of them are retired and they're absentee. So a lot of them are not even from our area.
Right.
But, they're investing in property and they're wanting to move to this area because everybody that's retiring loves our rural area. It's just so peaceful and quiet, and that's great. I mean, we're all for that here, but that's what I've noticed. A lot of my business comes from absentee landowners.
Yeah, but like if you're shooting video for your current business and you're putting up short videos or reels or whatever on Instagram, Facebook, start a YouTube channel. Just, I mean, let it mature for 12 months and see what happens. But
it's worth a shot. Absolutely.
It adds your name into one more row item with Google, right? So now you've got Elkhorn Pines website, Facebook page, Instagram, YouTube. So if they start clearing, northern Nebraska land property management or land clearing.
Yep.
Like there's a problem. Like what if one of the videos hits the right keyword, but your website doesn't?
Yep.
Yep.
Just another tool that would benefit. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I feel like digital marketing is getting so overwhelming. It's like a full-time job for a business owner.
Oh, I can definitely see that. I myself, I'm more worried about the day-to-day things. I mean, and when I come home at night, I need to be balancing my checkbook. I need to be running numbers on this bid, on that bid, and by the time I get home, it's like, oh, geez, I'm done thinking about it. I'm ready to shut off and enjoy my family, and then to try to top it off to run a digital marketing on top of that, it's just almost impossible.
I've got a friend of mine. His name's Lee. He was in the military, so I think that's a major helpful benefit for him.
Yep.
but he has gotten so good. Like, we talk every week. He has gotten so good at like a 5 p.m. cutoff time outside of a must finish job or a mishap. But if
Yep.
it's a normal day, like, yeah, you could work till 6 or 7, but we're not doing it.
Yeah.
Like, going home, walking the kid, eating dinner with the wife, puts the baby to sleep. And then, so he's had 3-4 hours with the family. And then
Yep.
every damn night, that dude fires up that laptop and finishes whatever's left to do at 9:00 at night.
Well, I can see that being
I don't have
possible
that
too.
in me, but that's
well,
dedication.
I mean, possibly, because sometimes before I go to sleep, I'll watch something on my phone or look at a YouTube video, whatever, for just a little bit so my brain just kind of resets, just to slow down. But I can see how some people can do that.
Well, it's just like Tammy's like, all right, I'm not working from 5 to 8, 5 to 9 because I've blocked that out for family time.
And you have to. I mean, my
Right.
wife, when I first started this business, my hours of work, and I'll give a huge shout out to Gunnar and Gavin, the two guys that worked for me starting out. One was a junior high kid. The other one, he had a young family himself, just like I did. We would work from 6 a.m. till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And then we'd get up and do it again because we had a drive to get every fence done, get on to the next project, move on to the next one. Well, my wife is very appreciative that we don't do that no more, and I'm grateful to always have her support. But starting out, it was very tough. I was never home, but when I was, it was strictly sleeping, and then I was up and gone before kids were up. She was getting to work, and kids were getting to daycare. It was very tough. I mean, it is a struggle when you're starting a business, but you've got to kind of push through a little bit to get to where now you can enjoy some of that time a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's still always going to be a grind. I mean, you got to utilize your time to the best of its ability, but you also have kids at home that you're heavily invested in. I mean, that's your sole being, you know?
Right. It's the paradox of the Mexican fisherman. Have you ever heard about that?
No, I haven't.
So American goes on vacation, charters out a boat to go fishing. The Mexican picks him up, takes him out. They fish. They're out there doing that. And the American's like, so what's your day like? He's like, oh, I get up, I grab the boat, and we go fish. We catch some fish on a normal day. I take the fish back home. My wife cooks and cleans it. We eat lunch. We take a nap. And then we get up. We dance. We drink. We have dinner and go to bed and do it all over. He's like, oh, really cool. He's like, why don't you fish longer so you can catch more fish and sell the surplus for a profit? He's like, I don't know. He's like, if you did that, you could take the profits and buy a second boat, and then you could hire people in your community to fish with you. And then you could buy a third boat and a fifth boat, and you could do all this. And the guy's like, yeah, I don't think so. He's like, no, but if you do that, and then we can start distributing the fish.
Oh.
And he goes through all these lines of like growing this massive business. And then he's like, and the Mexican's like, and then for what? And he's like, because then you can sell it and make a ton of money. Then you can fish for your leisure in the morning, take a nap in the afternoon, and dance and eat with your family at night. And the Mexican's like, okay. Like, I'm already doing that. Like,
yeah.
like, why do we create all that stress and work our ass off?
Yeah.
For our family, we don't even realize that we're absent from our family.
Exactly. And that's tough. I mean, kids got to have both mom and dad there, you know, and that's why.
You show me a kid that's under the age of 6 that gives a shit about a dollar bill.
No, they don't care one bit.
Have you seen those videos online?
I think it's pretty cool, but I mean, they don't have the perception of anything on money.
Yeah.
I mean, just nothing.
Like they were showing, and it was during all that left side, right side, kids.
Oh.
Boy, girl, I don't want to talk about that. Yeah. But these guys started taking kids, and he's just like, I'll give you 3 Snicker bars or $1,000. And the kid's like, give me this.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that video. Yeah,
right. And then there's 100 of those videos, and the kid never takes the money.
Yeah,
it's always the toy or the candy, right? Like,
exactly.
I'll take the candy. Like, they don't care. Like, they just want you there.
Yeah, that's all they want. And they weren't asked to come to this world, you know. So
yeah,
it's your responsibility, and no different than your responsibility of owning a business too. I mean, you've got to learn how to balance your life. That's been a struggle starting out for me, but now that we've gotten to a point that yeah, it's everything's great.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I'll tell you what, and I hear this from a lot of guys when we talk one on one or in small groups. Being present for events isn't the problem. It's mentally being present when you're with them.
yeah, yep.
You know, like you
And
could go to a birthday party, right? And like your whole mind's on, all right, tomorrow we got to order this material, and this job's got to be built up by Friday. And
yep,
you missed, you never saw the kid jump on the trampoline, you never saw him laugh or blow out the candles, so you just weren't there.
yep, yep. And I've noticed I've had myself doing that too. Like you're back of your mind, like, oh, I got a bid coming up this day, so I need to be kind
Yeah.
of, oh, what's fuel prices at right now? What are they going to be at? And like, oh, you've got to shut it off. You got to shut it off and enjoy your family because they're only little for so long, and that's the
Yep.
best time when they're little, you know.
Yeah. And there's probably a lot of guys out there right now that literally are going, yeah, that's easy to say.
Yeah. I
Super
mean, it
hard to
is hard
do.
to do. I won't disagree with them. It's hard to try and shut off. I mean, it is.
Listen, man, I learned a process a while ago. I don't talk about it too often, but the first thing you need to do is what I was taught is accept your thoughts. Don't respond to them. Don't try to justify them. Nothing, right? Just accept that you're having these thoughts. Like, all right, man, I'm at my kid's birthday party and I'm thinking about a job.
Yeah.
Like, don't beat yourself up, call yourself deadbeat dad. Don't like try to justify, yeah, but I got to get this job so we can pay the mortgage next month. Like, don't do anything. Just accept it. Like, all right, I'm sitting here thinking about work. And then the next
Yep.
question is like, if I don't think about it for 2 hours, will that actually change anything? Like what
I mean,
happens if I do?
the problem's still going to be there, right? You know,
But
2 or 3
right,
hours later, it's still going to be
but
there.
you're
I mean,
taking no action on the problem while you're at the
exactly. Yeah.
right.
I mean,
So
you're
it's
not
like you
going to
have to
change
go
the
through these
outcome of
list
it
of
then.
questions. Like you have to mentally mentally talk to yourself. Like, all right, I'm having these thoughts.
Yeah.
Am I doing anything to actually make a difference on those at the moment? No. Should I be, or can I do it later tonight or first thing in the morning? Well, I think I could do it tomorrow morning. I'll be fine. Like, right. Is it
Yeah.
worth losing the time with the family? Because my mind's no, it's not. And then
Yeah.
literally just accepting it and doing that, the stress level drops. You're 50% clear of that weight and you can start working through it. But most guys don't take that 30 seconds to 2 minutes. I didn't for a long time.
Yeah. Yep. I'm the same way.
Just to talk to myself. Right.
Yep. No, over the years, it's just kind of like, well, you just got to step away. I mean, step away from your brain. Just watch and enjoy the little things.
So I read this book years ago called The Hermit Monk, and it was talking about like meditation for the 21st century.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Right. So I remember I sat down in this chair and I'm like, I'm going to meditate and try this out. And the idea was like to let the thoughts cross your mind and just recognize them. Don't think about them. Just let them go until you had no thoughts, because then your mind worked through them and then you could just sit in peace.
Yeah.
And I did this. And I remember opening my eyes going, man, that was wild. I can't believe that was 15 minutes. And I was like, or 4 minutes. I made it 4 minutes. And it felt like an eternity.
Yeah. Just a relief.
No, but it's just like, holy shit, I can't close my, I can't even sit with myself for 4 minutes. That's wild.
Yeah. I get it. So do you read a lot of like self-development books and stuff then, Ryan, or?
Yeah, I read a lot of books for self-improvement and business improvement.
Yeah. Self-improvement, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite self-improvement book that you've read over the years?
It's called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep.
So this book is a precursor to like The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, and then there's Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yep. I've read.
Everybody's heard of Atomic Habits, right? If you read The Slight Edge was published before those books, and it's the same principle, right? It's the small things compounded daily, make a drastic difference over the long term.
Yep. I myself, so I don't listen to music in my machines. I'm podcast or self-improvement books, and my favorite is The Noticer by Andy Andrews, and it's kind of a story based, but it gives you a taste of how to view perspective. Just how to take a step back and look at things, and that's been just the game changer for me. Just I'm always going back to that. So,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of other ones I've read. I mean, I've read and listened to and enjoyed. I mean, you always learn something new from every one of them, but that one's probably been by far my favorite, was with Andy Andrews.
Yeah. And then there's another book that I read, and actually I gave it to a friend of mine as soon as I finished it. And this one, like, we have a lot of guys on the show that are very strong in their Christianity and their faith.
Yep, absolutely.
It's kind of cool. Like, this industry, it's not like this, like most people, and they're like, they don't want to shove it down someone's throat. They're very polite about it, but it seems like everybody I talk to has a very strong faith.
Yep.
But so as do I. So the book that I read was called The Power of Change by Craig Groeschel.
Yep. Yep.
Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, I've read that one. Yep.
And then he ties all of the lessons of how to improve your life to verses in the Bible and examples of other guys in the Bible. And it was just a really cool, it's a different way of looking at it. Like, you're hearing the same message from a different delivery point, and like one or two of those might sink in because of that connection, or one or two might sink in from the slight edge or the compound. Because if you just hear the same message, it just kind of starts getting muddy.
Yeah. Yep. And Andy Andrews, he's a Christian-based author as well. That like I said, I've really kind of gotten to enjoy. He has a lot of books out right now that our message and kind of have reference to the Bible going back. And there's in this line of work, I mean, you've got to have, in my opinion, a very strong faith. I don't know how many times you sit there and you wonder, well, why isn't this going right? I've learned that just pray and let the good Lord upstairs take care of you, and that's what He's always done for me and my family. I mean, you've got to have a little bit of drive to go with that. But if you're trying, I think someone's always going to be looking out for you in a better way.
Yeah, and I remind myself this a lot, because I remember through my late 20s, early 30s, I was a very impatient person.
Yep.
You know, and I'm getting to the point, I'm still impatient, but it's a little bit more realistic these days. Like, my friends would still say I'm grossly impatient for what I want for growth. But I was even worse before, right? But I just always remind myself, like, you are exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yep. There's a reason why you're there, and the reason why people come into your life and all sorts of things. I'm a sole believer in that. I mean,
you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Good, bad, and different.
Yep.
You know, and some guys get a little eye roll on this, right? But like, the universe always balances out.
Yep.
You cannot be on a guideline that's straight up.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you're going to have downs. It's going to balance out. Like, if you have 3 amazing weeks in a row, that fourth week's going to bite you in the ass. You've
got to have some diversity. That's what, get a good taste of being appreciative of when things are great. I mean, that's what kind of goes with it. That's part of the business. It's part of the business world. That's with any business. That's not necessarily just land clearing or excavation, anything. It's with any business. Yeah. And if I remember right, you were involved in some restaurant, right? You own a restaurant,
bars in a restaurant. Yeah.
I mean, you had up and down times. I guarantee over the years you had a lot of up and down and moments of struggle and everything else. But you've also had probably some very rewarding times that came with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and you know, just like this industry, it's very weather dependent, that bar restaurant. Yeah. I remember, like, we were going into January, February, which are typically really slow months after the holidays, and cash flow gets tight and the operating budget gets lean.
Yep.
And then you get a 14-inch snowstorm on a Saturday, and you're like, fuck, how am I going to pay the bills next week? Yeah. Saturday's the day you make your money, right? Like,
absolutely.
And it's the day it snows 14 inches, not Wednesday. Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, so you get real creative with like, hey, ridiculous idea for a Monday night. Come join us. And you're like, all right, we're going to nickel and dime an extra 300 today and an extra 1,000 on Wednesday, and we'll figure it out. Right.
Yeah.
It's just got to have grit.
Got to have grit. Got to keep pushing through it and have strong faith. That's kind of what's helped me and my family along the way. I mean,
you can never have a victim mentality, in my opinion.
No, you can't. And you see that from time to time, and you see it everywhere. I mean, it's just and it's like, geez, you know, just bite down on your lip and push through it. get tough. I I had a football coach in high school that it didn't matter. I mean, you could have come limping off the field or a broken arm and get back in there. You ain't quitting on me, kid. Keep pushing, you know?
And like, yeah, there's always that philosophy too, right? Like just don't quit, keep grinding.
Yep.
And I think that can burn people out because they're not looking at the problem differently. They're just like, well, I just can't quit.
Yeah.
So like, I remember reading, I couldn't even tell you where I read it or where it was, but it was like, you focus on one problem, but you know, there's at least 7 different solutions to that problem. Yet we spend 0 time looking at those 7 solutions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like, how do you just flip your mind to go, okay, this is the problem. I accept where I'm at. Right. It's acceptance again, back to that.
Yeah.
What are the options?
Yep.
You know, and like Dan Martell teaches the 1-3-1 philosophy. What's the one main problem? What's the 3 possible suggestions to fix the problem? And out of the 3, which one would you recommend doing? So like that's how he trained his team, his employees. Yep. So that way they would start thinking for themselves because they already knew the answer, but they still bring the problem up, right? But you could take that same advice as a business owner and be like, all right, what's the 1-3-1 on this?
Absolutely. Yep. Could play a very good factor in a lot of things you do.
And it just changes how you look at it. Instead of being the victim of like, oh God, it always happens to me, or I can't compete with the weekend warriors. I do it too cheap. What's the 1-3-1 with that, right? If he's too cheap, what's the 1-3-1? Well, I'm not showing enough value in my dollar amount. Oh shit, there's a solution. Provide more value. List out the value so they actually see it. They don't have to assume that you're going to do it.
Yep.
You know, I mean, there's always a different way to skin a cat.
Oh yes. I mean, no matter what you do, there's going to be different ways to do it. Anything. Yeah. I mean, and different ways to look at it. I mean, I'm not saying the way I'm looking at my business is the right way. Is there probably ways I can improve on it? I'm sure there is. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to be closed-minded in that sense. I mean, there's always potential for growth, not just as a dollar amount with your business, but just as a business in general on growing your business the way it needs to grow. Just being personal, going through, you know, just not going through the motions and adding value to yourself, like you've said, you know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and it's funny because like you go through different seasons in life, right? Like winter's always coming. You're always going to have like a down, depressed, whether it be a couple weeks or a few months, like it's coming. Yep. You can't stay in the summer all year round. And I don't know about you, but I've personally found that when the winter hits me, that winter season, if I fight it, it lasts a lot longer. Like I just have to let it pass.
Yep. I love winter, so I have to.
I don't mean actual physical winter. I'm talking like in your mental aspect, right? Like you're always going to go through
a mental aspect. Yeah. I because I'm just saying I like the challenge that it brings. I mean, that's where I'm getting at in a roundabout sense. So,
I don't remember where I was going with that. Why I brought that up. What were we talking about before I went on the winter season?
We spun out here. I was. Yeah.
But it's all shit business owners think and feel the same way, right? Like, but yeah, anyway, find a way to look for solutions. Don't focus on being the victim.
That's right.
And people don't even think they're the victim, right? Well, I'm not a victim. He's doing dumb shit. I can't compete with him. I'm like, that means you're the victim to his way of running a business.
Yeah. Don't get so down. You know, you're alive today. Things are good. You're breathing. You got to find the positives in things. So
yeah, every morning on the way to the gym, I make sure to ride in complete silence, and I watch the sunrise as it's coming. Well, I can't now because it's still fucking dark with a stupid time change. You know, like maybe I'll talk to God, maybe I won't, but I just give myself that space to just be present first thing in the morning, and it sets the tone for the whole day for me.
Absolutely. I myself, what sets me for the week, we started doing a Bible study because I also coach golf here at the school. I'm a golf coach. So we started a Bible study group in our town with the coaches, and that's what, ever since we've really been doing that, we've been doing that kind of throughout the summer a little bit, and it just really sets my week. I dread getting up that early to go to it. I think that's the one thing I dread because usually we're getting up really early to go to it because everybody has work and things they got to get to, and that's about the only thing I really dread doing. But once I get there, I feel refreshed, like
Yeah.
the new week, I'm ready to rock and roll.
Ready to attack it. And everyone has something that will do that to them.
Oh, absolutely.
Except we get our blinders on and we're so focused about work or the kids' sports or like you name it, right? And we forget to take time for ourselves or to surround ourselves with people that lift us up.
Yep. And you got to have that. And that's not even just going to business. That's just with living in general. You got to have a pump up man.
Right.
To be there.
You got to have your own hype man.
Exactly. Yep. Got to have a hype man. So.
I remember when I'm sure I've told the story before, but when I owned those bars and restaurants, like text messaging was just getting big.
Oh, okay.
You went from flip phones to like a smart style phone, like the first iPhone and stuff. And my brother, who's older than me, like he basically quit calling people. He was strictly text messages. And we would get the phone bill at the end of the month every month. And I'm like, how the hell can you send 2,500 messages in a month?
Whoa.
He's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, and so I was like doing the math on how many messages a day that was. I'm like, he's like, this is crazy. And I'm like, I know. And he'd look at the bill and he's like, how the fuck do you talk on the phone for 2,600 minutes a month? And I was like, oh, perspective, right? Like, he's like, I did it a lot less time than you did it. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't have the personal connection. Yeah. I still, to this day, my friends, I still call them. They're like, dude, why don't you ever text me? And I'm like, because I want to hear your voice. I want to actually connect to you. And I don't want anything I ask or do or say to be lost in translation.
Exactly. I mean, you don't want them taken out of context. I mean, that's just simple enough. A text message can be read 1,000 different ways.
Yeah.
Like, well, what do they mean by that? Like, well,
right.
I don't think they mean anything by it. That's just the way you're perceiving it. You
got like one of your best friends you've had in your life for 15 years. You talk to him once every 2 or 3 months. What do you do? Text him like, hey, how's life been? It's been good. Awesome. Glad to hear it. And that's the end of the conversation because you're texting. But if you called him, it'd be 30 minutes. You'd get all the details. Like you'd feel connected to his family.
Yeah.
And that's what you miss with that text messaging.
Yeah, you do. I mean, texting is a very good tool. I mean, as a connecting sense, it really has taken that away.
But the point I was getting, I kind of forgot what the hell why I even started this. I was like, why are we talking about phone calls and text messages? It was because when we closed the bars and restaurants, like nobody ever called me anymore. Like I didn't have that bar. Like and I realized real quickly, I'm like, shit, I really didn't have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
I had a lot of acquaintances or people that wanted to be associated to me because of the stature of the business I owned.
Yeah.
And then T-Mobile had that circle, like the family friends circle of 5 free calling. Yeah. And I remember that commercial came on TV and I'm like, I could do the triangle of 3 because I didn't talk to anybody anymore. Like my message, like my phone, and it made me realize I'm like, oh, I need to be a little bit tighter as to who I actually consider a friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like just because like we're having a great conversation, like I can't call you like a close friend.
Oh,
in the bar industry, like, yeah, dude, he's awesome, man. Come on in. Like, but it was a good life lesson to learn that, like, you've got to have your tight circle of friends, your ride or dies. Like, if a guy,
yeah, I mean, you got
to you to borrow money, like, what's the dollar amount, and then you know how good of a friend he is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to surround yourself with people that want nothing but the best for you. I mean, you don't want them when you get done visiting with them and you leave like, I hope he doesn't do very good, like, oh, he ain't going to get it. You gotta, I mean, and as an entrepreneur, if you want to get good at something, you've got to surround yourself with the right people. That's what I've always said. I mean, you've got to find the people that know what they're doing. And not only that, but even just advice, not even necessarily land clearing advice, just general life advice that, hey, should I do this? Well, you know what? Let's talk it over. And then at the end of the conversation, like, man, he's a very good friend, but he really does wish the best for me. Like, he wants to see me succeed. And I have a couple of them friends in my circle that do we talk every 6-8 months? Yes. But when we talk, it's discussing like, hey, so where are you at in life? Well, I just got done. I'm thinking about building some of them shop houses you've talked about. And So we sit there and we throw ideas off each other, and the conversation leaves. It's like, well, I think I added him value this time. Usually I'm taking his value,
Yeah.
I just, it's a great thing to bounce around, and you've got to have them people. You got to surround yourself with the right people. I mean, if you're with the wrong crowd, it's not going to lead you anywhere, because you're going to find yourself being very not associated, but you're going to find yourself talking like they do. I mean, you're going to find yourself being negative as well. So,
right. Yeah. It's like, you can't hang out with your high school friends who still sit around, play video games and smoke weed every night after work and not expect to play video games and smoke weed.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to surround yourself with the right people. That's kind of how I've always looked at things a little bit too. So,
yeah. There's a lot of talk about how people are meant to come into your life and leave.
Yes.
And like they actually talk about like the definition of a soul mate.
Yep.
Is not your partner. It's somebody that you needed in a moment of life to guide you and be there for you. You're like whatever, but they're not meant to stay in your life.
No.
And it was really, really eye-opening when I read that.
Yeah. I've actually had the pleasure of experiencing that, like you just talked about. So the time I left working for my in-laws to do this, my first customer that did trees, fence, everything, he was a very good hype man for me. I mean, wanted nothing but the best for me, helped me out with my business, helped me out figuring out just kind of the brass tacks of everything that I didn't even realize going in. And unfortunately, I mean, he passed away a few years ago, and a great man. Really got to know him and considered him a very close friend. And then as that door closed, another man come in, and we've been nothing but very good friends. And I've always talked to him whenever I have a question about something, and I do work for him too. I mean, he has me do work for him, and the relationship we have together is that if there's something I'm kind of hungry for some knowledge or something on, and I ask him what his opinion is, and we share our opinions back and forth, and want nothing but the best for each other. And that's, it's just crazy how people come into your life, like you said. I mean, and not necessarily, I mean, they're your soulmate, but not, like a significant other soulmate.
Right.
And that's, and just really gives you food for your soul, listening to them and knowing that they've got your back. They want nothing but the best for you.
Yeah. Like you feel like a better person after spending time with them.
Absolutely. Every time. And yeah, it's great.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So yeah, back to your business.
Yeah. Sorry. Kind of really spun out there. So yeah, I kind of started getting into cutting trees, transitioned into that to doing dirt work. And so I've really based my business around conservation. Really a passion of mine is conservation. If we're not going to take the right steps on preserving what we have, I like my children to grow up and enjoy the things that I grew up enjoying. And how can I do this as a business to where I'm going to feed my passion, but yet also provide a living for it? So yeah, with the Whitetail solution side, we started doing food plots, selling some mineral, and what else were we doing? Shooting lanes. Everything kind of tied into my business to where I just wanted something else that, and a matter of fact, a customer the other day, we were talking, he's like, well, what's with the Whitetail solutions at the end of your business? And told him, I was like, well, heck, I didn't even know you did such a thing. Yeah, I want a food plot done. So
it's literally in the name, man.
Yeah, like it. I mean, he just was quizzing me on what that's all about, and that draw me into doing more work for him. So yeah,
that's awesome.
That's kind of the gist of most of that. I do a little bit of dirt work here and there, but for the most part, I really like to focus in on land reclamation with my skid loader.
That's so cool. What's your goal for the next 5-10 years? Is it to just keep working with your dad? Is it to grow a team? Like everyone's vision of success is different, right? Yeah,
everybody has a different approach to where they want to be at in 5 years. My biggest thing is my family's so young. So if at all possible, I want to stay as local as I can. I want to be there for my family, watch my kids grow. I'm kind of based around my family. That's kind of the growth of my business. Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to succeed and keep prospering as a business, but myself, I just kind of I want to stay where I'm at. I enjoy what I'm doing. I'm not looking to get thirsty with greed or anything. I'm happy with how things are going, and eventually, I'd like to actually just go to ranching. That's kind of what I'd like to eventually transition into, but that's down the road. But the opportunities there. Opportunities are always knocking. Like I said, you just got to answer, right?
Yeah, and I think you can probably attest to this just from the conversations we've had today. But
Yep.
like people always say, if I could just get a chance, or I just had the
Yep.
opportunity. I'm telling you, if you're out there knocking on doors, you're turning down so many opportunities because they're really like it's not a good fit. It's a distraction, or I'm not built for that. But if you're out there visibly present, making connections, like opportunities show up on your door literally daily.
Yeah, and let's say you go to somebody and they don't have any ground for you to do any clearing on or anything else, but they'll be like, hey, Andrew just stopped by, just talking to a guy at the hardware store. I'm looking for somebody to do some cutting for me. Well, heck, this guy Andrew just stopped by my house, left me a card even. Hey, why don't you give him a call and maybe he has some for you. I mean, it's just going to keep growing out into like a tree, so to say. I mean, it's going to keep going.
It sure is.
Yep. But like I said, I mean, I've never been afraid to knock on a door or call on the phone. Like I said, like we both said, I mean, no is no. You're no different than what you were 5 minutes ago. So before the call, can't be afraid to call.
Yeah. So I have a lot of friends that are people like through social media. They'll reach out to me being like, hey, I know you only work with excavation companies, but can I pick your brain on this business idea I have?
Oh yeah.
And like, they'll start talking to me about these business ideas. And I'm like, I want in. And I'm like, no, you got to stay in your lane. Right. Like I can't, like my buddy was showing me, like, he's like, yeah, we're picking up dog poop. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we don't know what we're really doing. Like we just kind of put some Facebook posts out there. We had some clients and it's like, but I want to grow this thing. I'm like, like, all right, what did you do the first year that you just kind of, he's like, we did like $25,000. And I'm like, picking up dog shit.
Whoa. That's wild.
On the weekends or like a couple nights a week after work. They're doing, I think he's close to $90,000 part-time side hustle.
Wow. That's insane. Yeah. I mean, with what you do, I'm sure you hear all sorts of great ideas and great business opportunities that people kind of think of. And yeah, I mean, just to be a fly on your wall and hear some of that would be pretty cool. I honestly like what is driving these people to come up with these ideas. For me, that's where I'm getting at. Like how does it just pull out of thin air? It's pretty crazy.
I think a lot of it's mimicking, right? Like you probably, if you're a big animal lover and you've been watching stuff, you're going to come across somebody, and this was 5-6 years ago, right? Like, oh,
absolutely.
This guy does what? I can do that.
Yeah.
But like a friend of mine just had coffee with me and he's itching to get back into business, actually itching to get into business ownership. He's in his late 40s, early 50s.
Okay. Yep.
Got 25 years experience in utilities. Now he's been working in the non-for-profit sector. And he's like, yeah, I want to start a business and offer mapping services. And I'm like, I know nothing about it. So like the first 45 minutes was just like me getting a grasp on what he would provide, who his customers were, what it looked like. And he was all over the board, right? Like we could do it for them. We could do it for this. We could do this. We could do that. And I'm like, or you could do it for one group and just stay really,
and specialize
really
in one group. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we started like working all that plan together. And
but I mean, there's nothing wrong with having the opportunity of another group. I mean, keeping that in your back pocket, obviously,
Yeah. And whether it comes to like services in this industry or like customer bases, like every time you have a new customer base, it's a whole nother marketing branding campaign.
Absolutely.
We started out selling equipment when I ran Do More Equipment. We sold these graders for ag.
Yep.
And then we sold graders for construction. And we also sold an attachment for a bulldozer.
Yep.
it was literally like, okay, how do we gonna go after the farmers? Because the message is not the same as it is
No.
going after the construction. And
Yeah.
like after 2 years of spinning our wheels and all that, I was like, if we sell ag shit, I'm cool with it, but I'm not focusing my attention on it.
Yeah.
It's the distraction from us growing this
Oh,
arm of
yeah.
the business.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you kind of got to be specialized in one thing or another. I mean, and focus in on that. But I mean, like you said, it's also great to hit another customer base. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're
I
trying
mean,
to grow a
especially
certain way,
with the excavation industry, it's a different ballgame because especially for you, right? Like, what's the population for the 100 mile radius that you're in? Like, it's not anything close to
yeah,
where I am
no,
at in Peoria,
no, no, no.
right? So if you're like, we're only doing ag fencing,
Yeah,
at some point you would put all of the ag fence in your whole area.
yeah. Well, no, not necessarily.
Well,
But I know what you're saying. Like for customer base, you are. But I mean, there's guys who do fencing here that were a competitor of mine. Helped me kind of get started too. Still to this day, have not left in county. I
right.
mean, they've been doing it for 15 years now. Have never left the county. So I mean, and that's a great thing. But it's you got to hit the right kind of market for it, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So.
But it's just a good reminder to guys out there that you do not have to be the jack of all trades.
No, you don't. You don't have to do everything. I mean, you could just focus in on one thing, and that's what you do. And there's nothing wrong with that. I do a lot, but I eventually down the road, I'd like to just be clearing trees, and then eventually transition into just ranching.
Yeah.
So, just
But again, like majority of your services all tie in together. Like you could
yeah,
literally
it's all the same.
call yourself like a land management company.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
You
it's
know,
all the same thing. Yeah,
clearing,
yep,
conservation, wildlife habitat, like
yep,
it all goes hand in hand. It's not like
yeah.
you're not like 3 days a week you're out doing land clearing and then you're digging ditches for the county.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
No,
awesome,
it's
man.
all pretty much all tied together. But like I said, that's eventually I want to just get out of the fencing part of it. But for right now, we just kind of still do a little bit, which is enough because in my business, our most of our downtime is kind of middle of the summer because of nesting with birds. So summertime, it's nice. You got longer days. So, well, let's build some fence until we're able to cut trees again. So that's
Yeah.
kind of but like eventually I'd like to just get where I'm just going to be doing some ranching in them off months and just permanently ranching eventually.
Do you do a big push to fill your schedule for like this time of year for clearing because everything's a little drier? It's so much easier on the equipment.
Yep. Well, and so we go from one extreme to another in Nebraska. I don't know what it's like in Illinois. I mean, we went from record rainfall amounts this spring to in a drought. Now we're in a drought. So the fire hazard's at an all-time high. It was here about a month ago. So I don't try to do any cutting around them because I really do not. We had a bad wildfires in our area back in 2012. I was on the fire department. And for 7 days, I never come home.
Wow.
Stayed out in the truck and fought fire around the clock. I mean, you get some sleep here or there. And so yeah, back in 12 there, it was pretty bad. So that kind of lives in the back of my mind a little bit. So when our fire hazard's at an all-time high, it's equipment. Anything can happen. I mean, especially mulching, cutting trees. You got a metal blade that's spinning super fast, rubbing against wood. Something's gonna happen if you're
a
not
lot of friction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this time of year now, coming into fall, equipment runs better. It's cooler. You're not running hot. Typically, have gotten some fall rains, a skiff of snow here or there. And then last winter, we had record snowfall amounts compared to, so like I said, we go from one extreme to another. So I did a lot of snow removal last year, which is something I normally don't offer until last year just because, well, I couldn't even make it to the field where my fuel barrel's at to do any cutting without digging my way in. You dig your way in that morning, you're going to dig your way out that night, and you're going to do that for several days. So it's like, well, there's no point of doing this. It's a waste of time. Let's just wait until better days. And then so we decided to do tree burning. That was another service I offered is burning tree piles, because a lot of absentee landowners in the area, older guys, older landowners that they don't want to mess with fire. And not saying that something couldn't happen, but usually when you have about a foot of snow on the ground, you're
good.
What could happen is going to be very small.
Yeah.
So
what a great service to offer, especially with that aging population we just talked about. Like,
yep.
Like you've got my mind reeling today of being like, what are we missing for that generation? That's, not quite in their 80s, but in their 60s that they were young enough for the tech boom. They get all that.
Yeah.
They're not out of touch. But they're like, and they know what their time and their value or their health's worth, right? So there's a lot of things.
Exactly.
A lot of things our grandpa would be caught dead paying for.
Oh yeah,
right. And our dad's like, how much for that? Yeah, do
it. I exactly know what you're saying. I mean, yeah, growing up, you're watching your dad and your grandma's like, oh, we're not going to pay for someone to come put new fence in that we can do ourselves. Like that should, if I can do it, we'll just do it.
We're doing it.
Versus, oh, okay, well, am I better off building this fence and taking the week to do it, or tending something else that's going to add more value to me? So yeah, I mean, the times have completely changed 100% on how people's perspective of how their business operates. One of the biggest things I've always kicked around in the back of my mind in our area, I've always told a couple of guys this for an idea, was you need to offer a mobile service for farm equipment, irrigation equipment, that you're showing up to their place, you're going to change their oil, you're going to service their tractors, you're going to, oh, hey, can you do my pickup while you're here? That is a very untapped market in today's world, in my opinion, that mobile maintenance service is going to be a must. I mean, because you can't have employees anymore. I mean, just looking in the rural areas, like I said, the rural areas, looking at from where I'm from, it's hard to get help. I mean, there's not a lot of people around, and if they are around, they're doing something like I'm doing, or they're ranching, or they have a good paying job too, working for the utility lineman, or et cetera, et cetera. But that old farmer, his kids ain't back. They're doing their own thing in the city, and he's having a hard time keeping maintenance up. And I think a mobile maintenance service would be it'd be a killer today, in my opinion. That's just another.
I would bet there's a lot of excavation company owners too that have been like, oh, you can do tune-ups, maintenance. He's like, I'm not messing with it.
Yeah, I mean, all you got to be special. I mean, mechanically inclined is just the bare minimums. Like, yeah, you might have to learn how to charge an AC system, which isn't very hard. But where we're at, we have 3 welding shops in a town of 200 people. So there are some cities that don't even have a welding shop, and we have 3 of them. I mean, you can stop into one of them, and they're going to show you how you need to do it.
Yeah, my ex-father-in-law, he retired early, and he was doing welding out of his house, had a shop and all that. And then he went to an auction and bought an old Caterpillar service truck and turned it into a mobile welding center.
Oh yeah, yep.
He's busier. I mean, he was busier than he ever imagined.
Yep. There's another guy here that's local. He's come out and helped me. I mean, he has a mobile welding unit. I had a rail on my skid steer on the track system snap, so we couldn't really load it, and without damaging the track, you couldn't take it off and load it. So he had to come out and do some welding to it. And a very great service to have. And like I said, there's an untapped market for about any type of business. If you're looking at an older generation, you've got to look at what their needs are. And I don't know, there's just opportunity is always knocking,
Yeah. Yeah. It comes down to what potential pain points does the ideal customer have?
Yep.
How do I provide value to solve those pain points?
Yep.
Like that's the missing step that most of us take in business, right? Like I want to get into land clearing. I think it's cool. I'm going to buy a skid steer. So we go buy the equipment, and next, we're like, yeah, we got a business. We can do your land clearing. Who's your customer? What problem are you solving?
Like, and what value are you adding? Who are you adding?
We typically don't take the 5 hours to write that shit down before we jump in.
Yeah, I know, because I did it.
I've done it more than once.
If we could go back over again, I'm pretty sure it'd be way different starting out.
Starting Skid Steer Nation was the first time that I actually built a business around my life.
Yep.
and not just built a business because I was like, I think I can make money at that, or I think it's cool, or and it's the best thing I ever did.
Yep. Yep.
You know, like what
And
kind of
pretty
life do
rewarding.
well,
I
right?
mean,
But I was like, what kind of
getting to
life do
talk
I
with
want?
people every day like this. I mean, that to me would be
Yeah,
very cool. I mean,
this is my
you're
the
learning something
podcast is
about
my favorite
everybody.
part of the week.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, just being able to chat and talk and tell stories. I mean, I learn something new every week from the guys I talk to.
Yep. And
Like,
I said,
you're
that's,
foolish if you don't, right?
oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I just sat down and I remember just like COVID was going on and I'm like, all right, I'm going to start a business again.
Yep.
And it's just like, what are my non-negotiables first and foremost?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be tied to a building or a 9 to 5.
Yep.
Like it was like I was building like what kind of life do I not want to have? Because I think it's very easy to verbally say what you don't want.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's
absolutely.
hard to say what you
Yep.
do want.
Yep.
Right. And then I was like, I want to be able to travel and still work. Right. So, okay, it's got to be based on the internet. We got to have, if there's Wi Fi, I can make money. I want an opportunity to make money while I'm sleeping. All right. So it's got to be open
Yep.
24 hours a day. So it
Yep.
just kind of worked into like, all right, we're online is where we're going with our business. What's my
Yep.
passions? What's my skill set? What's my knowledge? Because I swore I'd never get back into like the attachment industry again when I left it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I love cycling, like bicycling. I'm like, yeah, but what the hell do I know about anything parts related, right? I take my shit to a bike shop. I don't even try to fix it.
Yep.
And I saw no
Yep.
value that I provided to that industry. And it just came down to, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, I know attachments really well. I know the industry. I know the customer. And what if we took that? We
Yep.
partnered with only small family-owned manufacturers, so we're different than all the other dealers. And we fill the gap for
Yep.
them. So now we're providing value to our vendors.
Yep.
And we become a marketplace just for those. And we create, like at the end of the day, like I always say, like we're a marketing company.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we don't do a good job marketing, nobody knows we're there.
Yep. So
And we're not dealing with 100-mile radius. We're dealing with the United States of America.
the wide web. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. So what was your transition from doing being in the restaurant industry to doing equipment? I mean, how was that transition for you? If you don't mind me
Oh
asking.
man, it was 2011. I was so burned out from the bar industry because 2008 we were hit
Oh yeah.
really hard with like the housing boom bubble and then the
Yep.
recession.
Yep.
And we just never really recovered from that. And I didn't care. Like I
Okay.
hated going to work.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I physically hated it. I just got to the point where I'm like, if I take pride out of the fact that I'm closing a business, I'd do it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't want to selfishly say I had to close a business.
Yeah.
So I just like, I'm taking pride out of the equation and like, here's why. And I just told myself and my brother and I talked about it. We picked the date we are going to close the business. Like we picked a date 6 weeks in advance. Like this is the last weekend. We're done.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. And we just closed the business. I spent the winter I'm doing whatever and into the summer trying to figure out what I want to do next. And I was just going stir crazy at home. And I was married at the time and my wife's friend, her family was part owner in this manufacturing company. And they're like, we want to work sales for us. I'm like, yeah, it gets me out of the house.
Oh, cool.
But I knew absolutely nothing about manufacturing. I knew absolutely nothing about skid steers, attachments, construction industry. And I took a job for $12 an hour plus 5% commission selling Do More graders.
Gotcha.
And then we turned into like aggregate spreaders. I traveled the world with the company supporting equipment. And I ran that company for 9 years.
Cool.
And yeah, left that. And then COVID hit and then Skid Steer Nation. So,
Yep. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And now we're getting into, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. Damn it. I said I wouldn't do it, but I'm going to do it. Now we're getting into the tech world. So I've been working on a software and working with a developer. We've got beta testers on it right now. It's still in the kind of infancy stage, but I'm hoping in the next 4 to 8 weeks that we're launching this software. But one of the common things I hear from guys in the industry is, how do I write better bids?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Estimates. How do I write better estimates?
I mean, there's got to be something a person could use with like chat, AI and all that.
We're building it all out. So all we do, like we ask the questions. You just basically take your notes. You
Oh,
type them in, and then it prints out a beautiful professional estimate. If the customer says yes, you click the
awesome.
button, it converts it to an invoice. And then we're going to market paid, just like guys that are using like Invoice Me or the simple things. Like you can keep track of them that way. That's phase one. Like our vision is to actually make it so that you can run a majority of your business. Like I don't want to be there for the guys that have 100
Oh,
employees, but I want to
yep,
be able to like, hey, we integrate with social media accounts. We integrate with QuickBooks. We
yep,
can help you get good reviews. Here's your CRM for your customer management. We can tie
awesome.
into your calendar. So we're starting out with the estimate creation. And then I'm like, well, shit, we're already connected to AI. We're already building out all the
Mhm.
back end and like we're creating the wording for these documents. I'm like, it'd take me 3 extra days to do
Mhm.
that for social media. Because the
Oh
other thing I
yeah,
always hear is like, I don't know what to write.
yep,
So we've got it now where you've got like specific style of posts,
yep,
and then we
yep.
ask
Which,
questions,
yeah,
and then we generate the content, and you can post it to your social media
yep.
content.
Which Facebook kind of already does that. I mean, how do you want to word it? I mean, they're already using it in that sense. So why not tie that to a software that you're working on? And yeah,
Yeah, so like we've got it
cool.
set up like so you like tips and tricks. Like, do you want to talk
Oh
about
yeah,
like things like that, or do you want to do a transformational before and after photo, or a customer
yep.
highlight, or a day in the life of your business? And then
Oh yeah.
whatever you pick those, and then we've got a little list of questions. You fill out that information. You choose whether you want emojis or hashtags.
Oh
And
cool.
you hit generate, and boom,
Yep.
you a long, a medium, or a short length, and it's
Yep.
just kind of guided out. So we're beta testing it all out. The feedback's been pretty good.
Gotcha. Cool.
We're excited. So I
Yeah,
didn't
it
see
is pretty
myself
exciting.
getting into like the tech side of that way, but I just feel like that's where I can make a bigger impact for these business owners.
Well, yeah, I mean that's something. I mean, just looking at it from my perspective, I mean that's something that would have heavily benefit my business. I would think on what to exactly post, or even breaking down bits. I mean, how to word everything right on an estimate,
Yeah.
and making sure numbers and stuff are all matching up right. Yeah, that'd be a huge game saver, really.
Yeah. So like we want to keep developing it, but like first and foremost is just those two components. And we're going to charge, damn it. I'm talking way too much. My partner's going to be pissed. I'm going to charge $10 a month for it.
Oh yeah, geez, pretty affordable then.
I mean,
Yeah,
if it writes 15 social media posts a month, you're way money ahead, right? Not to
yeah.
mention we haven't got to the estimates yet, right? If you use it for
Oh,
that.
absolutely. The other side of the
Like, what if it
of the
closes you an extra 10 grand a month because your scope of work is clearly defined, you're professional and easy to understand. We're
yes.
breaking it out so that the terminology and the wording of the estimates are different, whether you choose a residential customer or a commercial customer too.
Oh wow. So it is really breaking stuff down then.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. If you're working for a contractor,
Yeah,
he cares about return on investment, not slowing down the other subcontractors. Like the problems that he personally has is different than a residential customer.
absolutely. Yeah.
So a residential customer doesn't know shit about what you do. So we have to like speak at a lower level,
Yep.
not use jargon, clearly define what they get to show the value. And then the
Yep.
commercial side, it's like, hey, we're professional, we're on time. This is what you can expect when you work with us. So it's just more blunt. A couple guys that are testing it, they said I like the commercial side better. So they're
Oh,
actually
okay.
going to write their residential estimates with the commercial prompt. But I think it's a personal preference, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
That's
but yeah,
cool.
I'm
That's pretty
excited, man.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really probably, damn it, I probably need to get some sort of an email. I mean, you know what? I'm going to put an email address in the show notes. If you're listening to this, if you're interested in learning more about the software, shoot me a message or we'll get you on a waiting list and let you know when it's coming out.
Yeah. Throw me on there. I'm interested.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I'm actually, we get done recording this episode. We'll talk a little bit more in detail with it. I would love to get some
Yeah.
feedback from you. So
You bet.
I'll give you access to it now so you can kind of beta test it for me.
Sweet. That'd be awesome.
Perfect, man. I hope to God my messages blow up over this, like, because that's if it's crickets after this, like
You kind
I'm
of
gonna
let the cat out of the bag.
I'm
I
gonna have to
get all this
justify my
anticipation
financial
now.
decisions this last few months.
Everything's building right now.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
So awesome,
cool.
man. I feel like that's a great time just to like say thank you and having you on here, man.
No, I really
We've been
appreciate
around
you.
the
Yeah.
world 360 today on personal life, business.
Yeah, kind of. I guess a little less on the business side, but hey, that's all right.
And here's the thing for me, I'm learning, like I used to be so focused on saying business related in these interviews, but we're
Yeah.
fucking humans, man. And like, we
Yeah.
all have the same mental stresses. We all have the same doubts. We all
Yep.
struggle with the discipline to do certain tasks.
Mhm.
And that's what makes us great business owners. It's
Yes.
not cutting
Yep.
grade a half a degree better than the guy down the street, right? That's
No.
like, that makes you good at what you do, but it doesn't make you a great business owner.
Yeah.
It's the space
No.
between the ears, man.
Exactly.
It's the
Yep.
space between
Yep.
the ears. So I'm finding that I'm allowing more expansion into that just because
Yep.
I feel better at the end of these conversations. And if I'm going to be selfish, like,
Yeah.
then cool. I don't, if guys don't listen anymore because of this, then sorry, but like that's a big part of running your
uh,
business is being dialed in emotionally and mentally for
absolutely.
yourself and your family. And
Yep. Yeah. And if I would have starting a business, I mean, listening to these podcasts and getting a little insight to, well, how am I going to keep a good head on my shoulders here? This is a very good tool. I mean,
yeah,
this is amazing. Just listening back to some of your podcasts that you've done and the conversations we've had, like going back to young Andrew, man, I'd be a lot further ahead today knowing what I know now. And that's with anything though too in life, but just on a business side of things, I think starting out these types of podcasts are great tools for young entrepreneurs.
I'll actually say they're great tools for any entrepreneur because I don't care how long
Yes.
you've been in business. Like
Yep.
you will
I
go
should
through
say
a
young.
moment where
Yeah.
you doubt yourself, right?
Yep.
Or you've been
Absolutely.
doing something the same way so long and it's like, there's gotta be a different way of doing it. Then you hear some guy
Yep.
talk about maintenance program for gravel driveways. You're like, holy shit, never
Yep.
even crossed my mind. I've been doing driveways for 10 years. How did I not think of that? Right. So it's just, there's always
Exactly.
something to learn. And I love this industry because guys like you are so open about their business, their thoughts. And like, that's how we learn and grow is by being transparent and like, yeah, this is the shit I dealt with.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm going to guess that there's going to be at least one dude out there that goes and joins a Bible study because of your experience and how it jacks you up. And if one person does that, this episode's freaking awesome.
Absolutely. Like I said, I enjoy that Monday morning, the start of my week. That's like I said, it refreshes me, gets me going for the rest of the week. So if it can
Absolutely,
help one
man.
person, I'm completely fine with that. Hope it helps everyone. So
That's awesome, man. Well, man, thanks so much. Guys, if you're listening out there and you want to say thanks to Andrew or connect with him and all that, we'll put the link to his business Facebook page in the show notes. You can just click on that, send him a message. He'd probably love to hear from you. It's crazy, Andrew. Guys reach out to the guests 10-1 versus me.
Oh, really? Wow.
Oh yeah.
I'm all open. Yep.
Nobody
Any
ever reaches
questions
out.
or
Nobody
anything?
ever reaches out to me. It's like they're like, oh man,
What
he's
the
too
heck?
busy for me. I don't get any feedback, nothing, man. And then I'll talk to a guy and he'll be like, oh, I listened to all your shows. I can't believe we're talking. And I'm like, I'm sitting in my home wearing a flannel shirt. We're two peas in a pod, dude. Don't put me on a pedestal, please.
Well, I appreciate what you do. I think it's a great thing you got going here, and I continue to do it. I think it's going to grow for a lot of people, even for you. I think it's a good gig for everybody. I think, in my opinion. So
I appreciate that, man. We're knocking on 70,000 listens on Spotify.
Wow, awesome!
Since we started.
That's a lot. That's
a small
that's
niche, right? Like we're not talking about, we're not talking about Taylor Swift. So we're not getting millions of kids running, it's like you gotta be a business owner in the dirt world. Like it's
and you got to start somewhere too. I mean, that's the other thing too, is that there's always a start and you're growing, you're going to continue to grow and having the right conversations with the right people. It's just going to keep getting better.
It does too. It's pretty awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you. I sure appreciate it.
Guys, don't forget, check out skidsteernation.com for your skid steer attachments. And if you want to get better with your mindset, with your numbers, with your systems, with your processes, head over to groundbreakinggrowth.com. Book that discovery call with me. Until next week, keep grinding, but be strategic about it. Take care, guys.